This might be the first weapon guide, if you want to call it that I've ever done, and you got two people to thank for that. Deadless, as always, for grabbing all the necessary footage for me, and lastly, the fucking businessman himself. He uploaded this massive guide to sweet business into my build chat, not merely embracing, but harnessing the inner ape that continues to give life to the meme, even now, to this day. Also that we too might learn one day how to tap into the inner ape that dwells within us all. Hallowed be the businessman, because apes together strong. Don't forget that my Discord is open to everyone. Patrons not required. All you have to do is just join the Discord, react to the rules, and promise that you won't be a total dick, and then you can share your builds to your heart's content in my build chat. Now, without further delay, let's get started. Sweet business is a creature of habit, so too must be the player. There are rules that it follows and guidelines that you have to adhere to before ever hoping of trying to get good with it. So let's talk about those real quick. First up is patience. Do not rush into fights that you're not prepared for or push when you can just pressure. That's called being dumb, and it's how you get dead. You have a team, and typically they're going to be better suited to playing the role of the aggressor. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't learn how to be the aggressor, but early on it's just going to cause excess problems that you don't need. It's best to just leave that shit to the hand cannons. You've got a functionally bottomless mag here, and you've got plenty of time to wait, so patience is a virtue. Then we've got proactivity. You need to remain combat effective. Now, that is a fancy way of saying don't fucking die, but it also means stay in or close to the fight that's at hand. The enemy team needs to perceive you as a legitimate threat, that thing in the back of their mind that they gotta keep tabs on even when they're getting shot at by someone else. You need to be living rent-free in the back of their heads at all times. Stay close, feather the trigger, emphasis on feathering the trigger, and make your presence known even if you're not currently in combat, because that kind of distraction goes a very long way. And lastly, we've got pleasure. Yes, you need to take this seriously, but not too seriously. You need to have fun with it. I mean, that's what video games are about, right? Right? Anyway, that might not sound like it's all that important, but this is a legitimate playstyle, one that can even help you go flawless in trials if that's your thing. Obviously, this can get boring if you're playing like shit or you're getting hammered repeatedly just over and over, and that's why you should probably have a playlist and some friends along for that bumpy-ass ride to the lighthouse. Just have fun with this. Don't stress it so hard. Knowing the optimal range for whatever you're dealing with is crucial to coming out on top of every duel. Primary tools, things like auto rifles, for example. Optimal range is sub 35 meters. Keep in mind that longer range duels can get you dead real quick, so for things like pulse rifles, you want to be a little closer or you're going to feel that aim assist drop. Sub 25 meters should do the trick. Just close enough to hit your shots, but far enough to where enemy aim assist starts to dip a little. Now, sniper challenges, long range battles, definitely sub 50 meters, but again, the further out you are, the more you're going to feel that drop in aim assist. Anything further than that and you'll start missing more shots than you're hitting, and I cannot say that is a good look. But the most important thing you gotta watch out for are the shotgunners. Engage at sub 12 meters. They are everywhere, dug into corners like fucking ticks. Only coming out to slide shot you at the most inconvenient of times. God damn it! Look, they are a collective, living, breathing tumor in every single arena, and they must be purged. Now, believe it or not, this is still technically a build video, though it's nowhere near as in-depth. So now that we know our optimal ranges, let's do a quick overview of what the businessman recommends in terms of armor and mods, that type of stuff. Mobility and recovery should be your main focuses, with resilience at a 60 to avoid the basic and infuriating bullshit. This'll harden you up just enough to stop the garbage from doing you in here and there. Everything else is preference, mostly. You know, throw in the usual high energy fire, taking charge, powerful friends, radiant light, and pow, now you're an ape. Congratulations. Like I said, there's not all that much to it, really. However, the first thing to understand is the kind of advantages that our exotic, the Actium War Rig, provides. If you're not using War Rig with sweet business, I'm gonna politely yet aggressively ask you to please leave a spunk-ass comment about how you'd rather be using something other than the exotics that are literally meant to be paired together for some awkward reason that I'll never read and I probably wouldn't understand even if I did.
Fuck, I love those comments.
This is a functionally infinite magazine, to a degree. This means that you don't need to worry about reaction time or bad reload timing. Obviously, this is meant to compensate for the lack of ability potential. Shit, my lady's calling, hold on. Second, Sweet Business itself is not meant for the zoom and boom playstyle that most players tend to employ. It doesn't have the dead stop TTK or the handling to qualify as a reaction weapon, as the businessman calls them. So the first thing that you need to do when you anticipate combat is pre-fire. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, pre-firing is the act of firing your weapon before the enemy has entered your sight line. Typically, this is a technique you use when you know that someone is about to turn a corner or walk out into an open lane. If you know they're coming and the barrel is already winding up, that's going to save you crucial milliseconds that could mean the difference between a win or a loss for that gunfight. It's also useful so you don't end up wasting a full mag on nothing, but we're running War Rig, so ammo isn't really something that we gotta worry about all that much. With proper trigger discipline, you can basically just kind of fire this thing forever, and you exchange the element of surprise for a sense of fear, something that sounds an awful lot like, "Oh shit!" And anybody on the receiving end of that is going to learn real quick that peeking means getting pelted. Now, this is a real effect, and it's one that can be used to hold someone's attention for a flank by a teammate or to bait them out towards your team as a whole. It definitely does take a lot of work and time to perfect, but if the playstyle suits you, you will know it immediately, and you'll settle into it real quick. Next point, discipline. And no, I don't mean grenades either. A lot of people treat Sweet Business like it's some sort of mindless weapon where you can just hold down the trigger and remove all thought. This is a lie. It's also 90% of the reason why so few people have any real skill with the gun. When I say discipline, I mean trigger control and tunnel vision. Let's discuss. Actium War Rig is nothing like a Year 2 rally barricade. You can't just hide behind it like a little bitch and expect your mag not to run dry. It takes proper feathering of the trigger to maintain the barrel rotation while not draining excess ammunition. Now, this is a technique that can take a bit of getting used to, especially if you're not familiar with the gun itself. Essentially, it's just a chain gun, really. The barrel wind up, again, can cost precious milliseconds of time that could get you killed. So one of your strongest tricks is your ability to keep that barrel spinning. Even when you're not in combat, that barrel needs to be spinning, because that effectively removes the time required to actually begin firing. So if someone decides that they want to step into an open lane or turn a corner without double checking, you can immediately mow them down, or at the very least force them to step back out of view. Your mag's not going to last a minute if you don't learn how to let go of the trigger and just spin the barrel for a bit so you can bait your target out into thinking that you're down for a reload, only for them to immediately be met with a bullet storm when they try to push you. And you're not going to last half that if you can't force yourself not to tunnel vision. Now, examples of tunnel vision. Here's a good one. When you've got more than one target, you have to be conscious of all of them. You have to anticipate where they're going, and you have to know what they're gonna do. Which means if you pick a fight with multiple people, or you get picked for a fight with multiple people, you can't just focus on one of them and ignore the rest. This is how you effectively get dead. On top of that, aiming down sights might have a noticeable reduction of recoil, but it also removes your radar, and you need that. You need that, mostly to know where to direct your fire and to keep your flanks denied. Now, if you get killed by a flanking shotgunner, that's your own fucking fault. You went full on tunnel vision and got outplayed by an ape. Congratulations. This doesn't necessarily mean that you can't aim down sights, but like I said earlier, Sweet Business is a creature of habit, so too must be the player. You have the hip fire spread to ADS as a reaction, so be sure to turn firing from the hip into muscle memory instead of rushing to aim down sights in every single duel. On a side note, the in-air accuracy on Sweet Business is fucking garbage, and you should never jump during duels. You can jump into duels if you have the range advantage, because aiming while falling can reduce some of the penalties, but it's definitely not recommended. That's a trick I'll talk about later in the video, though. Let's move on. One of the roles best suited for Sweet Business is the Gamma role. Now, you've probably heard this term once or twice at the very least if you watch TDT, since he's a fucking trials genius and he knows his shit. Seriously, just take a look at his Wolfpack playlist. The man has a wealth of knowledge, but let's discuss what the Wolfpack is and what Gamma means. Wolfpack is a set of roles that most players fall into, to a degree. Each one of them has a job or a focus within the pack, if you will. A team composition, we'll call it. Proper play of those roles can lead to effective teams being able to engage in a variety of scenarios. And Sweet Business fits nice and snug into the Gamma role, which is based on midline defense, covering flanks, supplying covering fire to the front, while also discouraging enemy pushes and giving your front line a safe area to retreat to. With this playstyle, and Sweet Business itself, you want to be behind the shotguns and the shorter range weapons, ready to burn down any enemies that enter your line of sight and cover a retreat for your front line in the event that they need it. You're essentially making yourself a target by doing this, but that's a good thing. Your goal is to make your presence known. You want them to know that you're there in combat. You want the enemy team to be dumb enough to take the bait and run out into the open over and over again just to get mowed down. As a result, your best bet is to probably just not run off on your own. You're just falling out of role at that point. You want to move with your team. You're supporting them, not leading them. Your goal is to cover them, to make sure that they have a safe place to fall back to, and pelt anyone that isn't on your team into submission, or at the very least force them to fall back. The two most common special weapons are shotguns and snipers. These have the incredibly short TTK of fucking instantaneous, so if we're gonna fight them, we need to better understand them and how to anticipate them. For shotguns, the easiest trick is to just not be in one-shot range. You want to hang back about 15 meters from the corner that you know the shotgunner is hiding in. Again, pelt their corner with lead. You are painting them into that corner by doing this, forcing them to make one of three decisions, two of which are just straight fucking dumb. Option A, they'll rush you with a shotgun and they'll die because you sawed their legs off with the fucking chain gun. This is because you were outside of their one-shot range. Option B, they'll try and challenge a minigun with whatever shitty kinetic they have because they're not used to using anything other than shotguns because they're fucking cancerous apes. Or Option C, they'll just try and dip, running away, temporarily escaping you, but only briefly. As we all know, shotgunners are living, breathing tumors. They dig themselves in like fucking ticks, especially in trials. This is what they do. They are waiting for you to try and push too close. You are an easy target at such a close range, which is why your goal is to prevent them from moving at all. I call this radiation therapy. Apply generous lead storm on their hidey hole. If problem persists, treat with more lead storm. Eventually, they're gonna panic and they're gonna move, assuming that you intend to box them in when you're not planning on doing that at all. It's entirely possible they may try and rush you, but provided you're plus 15 meters out, they'll have to run through a bullet storm if they want that one shot. Slugs, those are a little bit different though. If you suspect said tumor carries the chaperone, engage from slightly further out. Regardless, they're not gonna expect you to be so far away and they're gonna get gunned down, or they'll pop out for a second, realize what it is that you're doing, and then pop back down while they wait on their recov. After that, there's a 90% chance that they're not going to take the bait anymore, and it's almost a guarantee that they'll either wait for you to push or they'll opt out and try to run, giving you an easy shot at their back. Tossing a grenade is also an option, but taking even half a second to throw a grenade is going to stop your barrel, and that opens you up to attack. From the perspective of the shotgun tumor ape, that is an opportunity, because now you're completely defenseless for half a second. Unless you are 100% certain that said grenade is going to kill, do not stop the lead storm. On another note, fusion rifles should be treated the same as shotguns, but they are far more dangerous because they have a significantly longer range. You want to try and flinch them off if they peek, or rush them before they can slide out. Remember that you are in no hurry to score this kill. You've got a fucking chain gun, you have plenty of rounds and plenty of time. This again circles back around to trigger discipline. They can't pull the trigger if they're fucking dead. Distance radiation therapy, on the other hand, can be a bit of a pain in the ass. You don't want to fire out of cover. If you fire from cover, the sniper is going to see the bullet stream, and good ones are going to use it to snipe you the moment you poke your head out. Now, as odd as this is going to sound, especially to someone like myself, just hear me out. Fire into a wall and make them think that you're shooting at them. Peek over ever so slightly, just enough to try and get a gist of exactly where they're at. But only if they're alone in that lane, because you are almost guaranteed to get fucked on if they have support. Your entire goal here is to get them to swap the sniper for their kinetic. Whether you do so by making them waste all their ammo, or you manage to position yourself close enough, doesn't really matter. If you can get them off of the sniper, then mission accomplished. If they switch to a long-range primary like a pulse rifle, that does tend to create another problem. Definitely don't want to challenge until you're sub 35 meters, because a pulse rifle can destroy you at that range. Finally, onto the last major topic here, movement. Anybody can walk in a straight line. Everybody knows how to just W key. But holding down W and mouse 1, it's not going to win you any duels. If anything, it's just going to get you killed. One of the tricks that the businessman has come up with in his time using this gun is a sort of Titan skating, if you will. Note that this does not require you to bind your jump to a scroll wheel or some crazy shit like that. All you need for this to work is strafe lift and a working trigger finger. That's it. Catapult lift will not work with this while strafing and firing. You jump into the air and strafe jump into the direction that you want to go. Activating strafe during your upward momentum will increase the speed that you travel for this. In a nutshell, just Just triple tap your space bar or whatever your jump key is. That's really it. I don't know why I explained that with so many words. This is exceptionally handy for getting around, but also for getting out of line of sight. Though, to be frank, the most common usage will be to close in on a runaway target. The whole thing about Sweet Business is that you can't stop firing, which means you can't sprint, not without taking a risk at the very least, so this little baby skate trick is a pretty solid workaround. Now we're gonna close this out by going over a few special tricks and traps. Here's a handy little stunt that you can pull. Barricades of either kind. Rallies are cool, towers are better. The thing about Sweet Business is that you can just kind of spin up the barrel without firing anything, so a real effective trick is to place a towering barricade and then spin up your barrel before walking through it. You don't need to worry about ammo. Just fire. I promise this works. There's a dual functionality here. You're shielding yourself from incoming fire and prepping your own weapon for returning fire. Place the barricade, spin your barrel, walk forward while blasting, insert Danny DeVito meme, step back behind the barricade, rinse and repeat. Only an idiot is going to be brave enough to try and push past that barricade, especially considering they'll take extra damage the faster they move through it. This is exceptionally handy in tight spaces and narrow corridors where you can easily be pushed backwards. Here's a clip, you'll fucking love this. I intentionally didn't cut this death. Nice going, Dead. Way to live up to the name. One of my favorite tricks you can do here is pair this with a breech loader. Most people, when they get pelted by Sweet Business, are immediately gonna backpedal, especially if they're not sure where the rounds are coming from. If they step out of your line of sight, you can fire a breech loader and bounce that grenade around corners, which could potentially finish them off. This is extremely useful in trials. It has a lot more functionality than just that, but I'm sure that seasoned players can already see the use of something like a breech loader for cleanup. If I'm being completely honest, I sure as shit never would have thought of that. Now, as for maps, you might have noticed that I haven't mentioned a single thing about map-specific strategies, and that is because there is a staggeringly large amount to discuss in that respect. I don't want this video to drag on any longer than it already has, so instead, I'm gonna save that for its own project. You can expect that in the near future. At the end of the day, this is just the tip of the iceberg with Sweet Business. I would highly recommend using this gun and just kind of taking it out for a spin and really giving it a good old college try, because it is so much more than just a meme that so many people seem to think that it is. There is so much more to it. This is an extremely versatile weapon, and when paired with a smart playstyle, you can really knock some heads during a trials match. It takes a lot of practice and time to really develop a skill with, and you'll probably laugh, but I swear to God that this works. Create a playlist of some music that you like to listen to while you're playing and just sit back, relax, and let the gun do some work. It really is a fucking blast. Don't forget you can join my Discord to share your own builds to be featured on my show, or maybe take a look at my Patreon if you have any interest in supporting my channel in a more personal manner. Either way, I think that's about enough Destiny for today. I'm gonna go iron my fucking hands.